السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا شيخنا.
أبو عبد الرحمن، كيف الحال؟
الحمد لله يا شيخنا.
الآن صلينا صلاة العصر إذن.
نعم هكذا. نعم يا شيخنا، we can continue.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد. In the last class we were on a number of ahadith that Imām Adh-Dhahabi has mentioned in this book, Siyar A'alām An-Nubala, under the Seerah of Āishah radiyallahu anha. We are reading from Siyar A'alām An-Nubala under the Seerah of our mother Āishah. And the print that we depend on for the reading is the print of Mu'assasatul Risala, the one with the introductory notes with the taqdeem of Dr. Shaykh Awad Ma'ruf. And we noticed that Imām Adh-Dhahabi was mentioning a number of events that show the Prophet's compassion and love for our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha. We started with the story of the loss of her necklace. She lost her necklace, and the entirety of the community of Muslims, including the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, they were all returning from a journey. وَلَيْسُوا عَلَى مَاءٍ وَلَيْسَ مَعَهُمْ مَاءٍ. They were not in any place they could find a water body. There was no fountain, there was no river, no well, no means of getting water. وَلَيْسَ مَعَهُمْ مَاءٌ. And they did not have water with them. Despite that, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was very compassionate and lovely with Āishah. He waited until Allah revealed the verses on At-Tibyān. And shortly after that, the necklace of Āishah was found. That has happened in a circumstance where many of the men, no matter how much we love our wives and show compassion towards them, we will become impatient, we will become angry. We will tell the woman, let us go, forget about your necklace. And more so, we're going to miss Salah. But for the Prophet's show of love and compassion for Āishah, Allah sent down the verses on At-Tibyān. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the rest of the Muslims started At-Tibyān on that incident. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, who had been unhappy with Āishah over the delay, he also came back to say, Ma alimtu innaki la mubarakatun. I did not know, O my daughter, that you are such a blessed girl. The second incident was that shows the Prophet's love and compassion for our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha was when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq came into their house and he heard that her voice was louder than the voice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And he moved towards Āishah. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came in between Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Āishah. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq left, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he began to appease Āishah to be calm. And then he said to her, alayhi salatu wasalam, كيف رأيتني أنقذتك من الرجل? How did you find me? I had protected you. I had saved you from Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. That was a clear show of love and compassion for Āishah by her husband, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The third narration we read on page 172 was that statement from Salama radiyallahu anha. When Āishah radiyallahu anha went on to tell the people that كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقبل وهو صائم. The Prophet would kiss, he would kiss his wives, ويباشر, he would kiss his wife and he would fondle them, وهو صائم, while he was fasting. He would kiss them and he would fondle them while he was fasting. So Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As sent someone to find out and ask from Salama, Salha, Akana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam yuqabbilu wa huwa sa'im. Go and ask Salama, did the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to kiss his wives while he was fasting? فَإِنْ قَالَتْ لَا. If Salama says, say to her, إِنَّ عَائِشَةَ تُخْبِرُ النَّاسَ أَنَّهُ كَانَ يُقَبِّلُ وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ. Tell Salama that Āishah is telling the people in the public that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yuqabbilu wa huwa sa'im. He would give a kiss to his family wa huwa sa'im, while he was observing a fast. When that was said to Salama, Salama radiyallahu anha, she went on and said, لَعَلَّهُ أَنَّهُ لَمْ يَكُنْ يَتَمَالَكُ عَنْهَا حُبًّا. Perhaps the reason the Prophet was kissing Āishah, وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ وَيُبَاشِرُهَا وَهُوَ صَائِمٌ, the reason why the Prophet was doing that was لَمْ يَكُنْ يَتَمَالَكُ عَنْهَا حُبًّا. He wasn't able to hold back from her out of love for her. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salama hit the nail on the head. The reason he was kissing Āishah and fondling her even while he was fasting was lam yakun yatamalaku anha hubban. He was not able to hold back from her out of love for her. This is a show of love from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And of course that shows that the Prophet was living, telling us how to live our lives. From the things that are allowed for the rest of us also while in Ramadan is that we may kiss our wives, we may fondle our wives, we may kiss our wives, we may fondle our wives. Just like the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had said to one of the companions, how about having water in your mouth during wudu? So if you can have water in your mouth during wudu, and that does not spoil your wudu, then fondling and kissing your wife in Ramadan does not also spoil your fast. I hope that this is clear. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on a fourth occasion, we had the hadith of Asma'u bint Yazid. On the day they just brought Āishah to the house, the Prophet took a bowl of milk, alayhi salatu wasalam, and he drank from it. Then he presented the bowl of milk to Āishah out of love for her, radiyallahu anha. The fifth incidents we had read in the past about, in this book, about the Prophet's show of love for Āishah, radiyallahu anha, was that hadith of Zaynab bint Jahsh. Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, ما علمت حتى دخلت علي زينب. This one occurs in page 173. I wasn't aware until Zainab came to the house. She came to the house بغير إذن. She came without obtaining a permission from me. وهي غضبة. And Zainab was annoyed. رضي الله عنها. She came in and then she said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أحسبك إذا قلبت لك بنية أبي بكر ذريعتيها. أحسبك يا رسول الله إذا قلبت لك بنية أبي بكر ذريعتيها. Is it just sufficient for you إذا قلبت بنت أبي بكر ذريعتيها? So it's okay just when the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when she moves her small hands in front of you, that is all that you are satisfied with. That was what Zainab said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But the Prophet did not make a statement. This is a show of ghaira amongst the women. And we have repeatedly said that the scholars say that ghaira of a woman is something that we know in our religion. Islam recognizes that the ghaira of a woman, غير مستنكر وقوعها, وقوع الغيرة من النساء غير مستنكر. When you see a woman display some sense of possessive jealousy for her husband, there is no blame about that. For the Latin nisa, you see that even amongst honorable women. Fadlan ammandunahunna. Not to say about women who are not honorable. Even women who are honorable, we know that they show jealousy. So when Zainab said that to the Prophet, that all that you know is A'ishah should just be moving her hands in front of you and then you are not concerned about any other thing. Is that? She was saying that because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his wives had complained to him that he should tell the companions radiyallahu anhu, they should be bringing gifts to him on the days that he is sleeping in their own apartments too. It shouldn't be on the days of A'ishah alone. Prophet said, I don't have control over that. I wasn't the one who told them to bring it. So how will I say don't bring it on the days of A'ishah? And then the Prophet liked it that they brought those gifts, alayhi salatu wasalam, on the days of A'ishah. The women gathered and then they began to come to complain one after the other. When Zainab came, that was what she said. Radiyallahu anha. Hasbuka. Is it just okay for you? إذا قلبت لك بنية أبي بكر ذريعتيها. When the daughter of Abu Bakr shakes her hands in front of you, making you see her beauty. That is all that you know. Our complaints that we are complaining about, you are not addressing it. The Prophet did not say anything, alayhi salatu wasalam. This makes us understand men, sometimes when women say to us statements that we understand from it that it has come out of ghaira, you don't need to give an answer. The Prophet did not give an answer. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. ثم أقبلت علي. Aisha said after that Zainab turned on to me. فأعرضت عنها حتى قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. I wasn't responding. I turned away. I behaved as if I was not hearing what Zainab was saying to me. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. At that the Prophet said عليه الصلاة والسلام, دونك فتصلي. Defend yourself, Aisha. The Prophet told Aisha, defend yourself. So Aisha radiallahu anha gave a reply to Zainab bint Jahash. She said, فأقبلت عليها حتى رأيت قد يبس ريقها في فمها. I began to أقبلت عليها. I turned towards Zainab. حتى, until I found out that قد يبس ريقها في فمها. Her spit became dry from her mouth. That was when I stopped talking to Zainab. The scholars say, why did the Prophet tell A'ishah, defend yourself? The scholars say, rahimahullah, كأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بذلك لبيان الجواز ودفع الخصام, to show that that kind of a response is permissible. The Prophet told A'ishah to respond, to show to the rest of us that that kind of a response is permissible. If a woman out of ghaira began to speak to a woman, a co-wife, it is not unlawful if the co-wife gave her a response. The Prophet showed us that by telling A'ishah, Dunaki fantasiri, respond for yourself, defend yourself. So A'ishah said that, radiallahu anha. But the scholars say, wal-afu ahsan. But for you to overlook is better for you. If you overlook, it is better. Lakin al-raddu jaizun. If you give a rad, it is jaiz. If you keep quiet, it is better. There are verses of the Quran that affirm all of these. That was the fifth thing that showed that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was full of love and compassion for our mother A'ishah radiyallahu anha. The other incident that was cited by Imām Adh-Dhahabi on page 174 was that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to her door. Fadaqqa, he knocked the door, and the day that he came was not the day that he was supposed to stay in her apartment. Fadaqqa, he knocked the door. Fasami'tu daqqa. A'ishah was reported in this narration to say, I heard the knocking. Thumma kharajtu, I came out, and she opened the door. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, as it is in this report, Ma kunti tasma'ina daqqa. Were you not hearing me knocking the door? Qultu bala, O Messenger of Allah, I heard the knock. Walakinnani ahbabtu an ya'lam an-nisa'u annaka ataytani fi ghayri yawmi. Walakinnani ahbabtu an ya'lam an-nisa'u annaka ataytani fi ghayri yawmi. Yes, I heard you knocking, but I want the rest of the women to know that you had come to me on a day that was not my day. This report, like we said at the time we read it, it has in it Yahya al-Khawwas, and is a weak report of hadith. But so how did the Prophet used to conduct his days with the women? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would visit all his women. He used to start from after Salatul Asr. He will go from one room to the other. He will talk to them. He will play with them. He will even fondle them sometimes. Min duni masis, without actually having an intercourse. But having an intercourse is also allowed, if that will not imply inability to have intercourse with the person who actually has the night during the night. So when he starts from after Salatul Asri, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he will go around the homes of his wives from after Salatul Asri. Our mother A'ishah radiyallahu anha, she said, Ma min yawmin illa wa huwa yatufu alayna jami'an imra'atan. There is no day except that the Prophet will go around us, all of us, woman by woman. Fayadnu, he will come very close. Wayalmasu min ghayri masis, he will touch us, he will fondle us, min ghayri masis, without actually having intercourse with us, until he will return to the person who has the nawbah. Hatta yufdi illa allati huwa yawmiha, until yufdi illa allati huwa yawmiha fayabita indaha. So until he gets to the woman who has the day, then he passes the night with that woman. So that was how the Prophet ﷺ spent the day with his wives. But the first hadith was showing that he came to knock the door. He wanted to stay with Āishah, and it was not on the day of Āishah. The Prophet would not stay with a woman on a day that was not her own, even though she would visit the women. He could fondle them, he could touch them, but he would not have intercourse. But if a person has intercourse without affecting the woman who has the night in an intercourse, then there is no blame. How if when the owner of the night is even menstruating? Then you can have, if a man has a need, he can have a time to spend and actually have an intercourse with a woman who is not the owner of the night. Since the owner of the night is not in the position to have intercourse on that night. I just thought to clarify that issue properly. The seventh thing that Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned in this book, also on page 174, was the musabaqa, the racing between the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam and Āishah. She said, radiyallahu anha, فَنَبَقَنِ النَّبِيُّ صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فَصَدَقْتُهُ مَا شَاءَ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam requested that we do a race. He made a race with me, فَصَدَقْتُهُ مَا شَاءَ. And I raced and surpassed him. This hadith has come in a greater details in other books of hadith. When the Prophet travels with Āishah, that was one of what he will do, alayhi salatu wassalam. فَقَالَ لِلنَّاسِ تَقَدَّمُوا. The Prophet will say to the people, alayhi salatu wassalam, تَقَدَّمُوا. Oh people, go in front. Go, move forward. When they move forward, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam will now say to Āishah, Hatta usabiqaki. Come, let me race you. Let us race. That the lesson here is, yes, they would race, but the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would not do that in front of the people. Take note of this. There are people who used to go to the Prophet used to race with Āishah. It is not in front of the people. He told the people to move, and then he did that play with his wife. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Some brothers may be taking their wives to the gym. The gym is a public place. You are in midst of people, kuffar. They have no shame. If the slightest of the jilbab becomes uplifted from your wife, they look at her. They pay attention to all of that. So don't shame yourself. Take your family to the public like this, saying that the Prophet used to do a race with Āishah. Go to a place where you find a level of good privacy between yourself and your wife. You have a privacy for yourself and your wife when you do exercises or when you race between yourself. For us, the point of reference here was the Prophet was so compassionate with Āishah. He used to play with her. I always tell young sisters when they get a proposal from a man who has 2 or 3 wives, how now do you say that this man is an old man, I will not enjoy marriage? You can see that does not affect anything. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was far older than Āishah, and Āishah as a young girl, radiyallahu anha, she was enjoying that marriage with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Young men don't have much time for wives. All that they are concerned about is how they make money and gather money. May Allah protect us all. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did that on the first occasion. And our mother Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, hatta idha rahiqani al-laham. But when laham rahiqani, hatta idha rahiqani al-lahmu, yani hatta idha ghashiyani al-lahmu. When I became fat, meat covered me up. Amaltu laham. I gathered meat. Wabaduntu. I became fatter. Wanasitu. I'd even forgotten that he had raised me on one occasion and I had defeated me. فخرجت معه في بعض أسفاره فقال للناس تقدموا. So I went out again on another journey with the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. فقال للناس تقدموا. So the Prophet said to the people, move forward, move ahead. When the people move ahead, the Prophet went and told her, تعالي حتى أسابقك. Come so that we can race again. We did the race again, and the Prophet beat her. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sabaqani fasabaqani faja'ala yadhaku. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did the race with me. This time he won me. Faja'ala yadhak. The Prophet started laughing. Alayhi salatu salam. Faqala ya Āishah. Then he said, oh Āishah, هذه بتلك. Let this one be for that one. You know, she had forgotten. But the men will not forget. But all of these go to show the kind of love and affection and the show of compassion that happened in between the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and our mother Āishah. On page 175, Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned yet another incident that I count as number 8 in the matters that he mentioned that showed a lot of love and compassion for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with our mother Āishah, and that was her saying that تزوجني رسول الله sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam married me. حين أتاه جبريل بصورتي. When Jibril brought my image to him in a dream. We had read that repeatedly. Allah showed Āishah to the Prophet in a dream before the marriage with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Wa inni lajariyatun. When the Prophet married me, I was a little young girl. Alayya hawfun. I even used to have a belt that I tied to my waist. Falamma tazawwajani. When he finally married me, alqallahu alayya haya'an wa ana saghiratun. Allah placed a lot of haya, a lot of bashfulness, a lot of feeling of genuine respect and esteem. Shyness. The person is usually shy and bashful. These days, women are not like that. They even become worse in marriage. I've even seen circumstances where a woman used to be very shy and bashful, full of shyness when her husband married her. She would not allow a man hear her voice. But as the marriage went on, then she doesn't care. She could speak to any man, talk to anywhere. The shyness began to diffuse gradually in her. So you see women these days. She said, when I got married to him, I became a very, very shy person. She said, radiyallahu anha, alqallahu alayya haya'an wa ana saghiratun. Allah placed shyness in me, and I was a little young girl at the time. She was usually very shy, radiyallahu. And haya is part of iman. We had spoken about the virtue of haya in a number of places. When Hassan ibn Thabit was praising Āishah in the poems that he versified after Qissat al-Ifk, the major thing for which she praised Āishah was her haya. So she said when she was young, she had haya when she got married. It means up and on to that time after the Qissah of Ifk. Ifk happened when she was 13 to 14 years old. She was still a woman who was full of haya. You cannot describe a Muslim woman without haya. No shyness, no shamefulness. She's talk to this man, talk to that man. Hey. Every man is a person for her to talk to and discuss with. This is not appropriate for a Muslim woman. May Allah protect us. Like we said when we read this report, this is not here as we see it in 175. It has Abu Sa'd al-Baqal. He is da'if. Abu Sa'd al-Baqal is da'if. But everything that he said in that report has been captured in authentic reports. So the meaning of the hadith is sound. But this is not having Abu Sa'd al-Baqal maqal. It's a weak isnad. I hope that it is clear. So today, bi'idhnillah, we'll be mentioning the ninth thing for which the compassion and the love of the Prophet was clear. The ninth thing, number 9. The Zahabi was mentioning them one by one. Things that show the Prophet's genuine love and affection for Mother Āishah radiyallahu anha. The ninth one that Imām Adh-Dhahabi said is this, that he has reported from Mis'ar ibn Qidam. And this hadith occurs in Sahih al-Bukhari, in other books of hadith. It comes from Mis'ar. So Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, Mis'arun anil Miqdam ibn Shurayh an abihi an Āishah radiyallahu anha qalat كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يعطيني العظم فأتعرقه ثم يأخذه فيديره حتى يضع فاه على موضع فمي حتى يضع فاه على موضع فمي. Āishah said radiyallahu anha, this hadith comes from Mis'ar ibn Qidam, one of the scholars of the people of Kufa, from the teachers of Sufyan al-Thawri, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, and Al-Imam Shu'b ibn al-Hajjaj. These are big scholars of hadith. They live in the same time and place with Mis'ar ibn Qidam. They loved him, they respected him. They used to refer to him as Mus'haf. Why? He never errs in his hadith. Even though when he narrates his hadith, Mis'ar ibn Qidam, he will be narrating them as if he was giving a shock, as if saying, I think. But that is the correct thing. He will say, I think. But he's saying perfectly and reporting appropriately. So the scholars, rahimahumullah, like Al-Imam Waqi' ibn al-Jarrah, he will say, Shakku mus'ari kayakini rajulin. When Mis'ar is saying, I think, it is yaqeen for another person. Because when you go back, you see that it's not a matter of he thinks, he is reporting to you perfectly. Rahimahullah. So they used to call him Mushaf. Why? His reports are apt and accurate, just like the Mushaf is apt and accurate. Rahimahumullah. We could have gone along about Mis'ar ibn Qidam, but here he is reporting from Miqdam ibn Shurayh al-Kufi, and Abihi is reporting from the father of Miqdam, Abu Miqdam, Shurayh ibn Hani, who is reporting from our mother Āishah radiyallahu anha. Āishah said, Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, yutini al-azma, he will give me al-azm, a bone that has some meat with it. In some other reports, it says yutini al-arq. The arq is a bone that still has flesh with it. So the Prophet was the one. He will give it to me. Take Āishah alayhi salatu wassalam. فَأَتَعَرَّقُهُ. I will now be trying to eat up the meat from the bone. Take it away. I like to cut off the meat that are still remaining on those bones. ثُمَّ يَأْخُذُهُ. When I did that, he will take it away from me too. فَيُدِيرُهُ حَتَّى يَضْعَ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَمِهِ. He begins to turn it until he will place his mouth in the same place where I had placed my mouth. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Out of show of love for his wife. This is Rasulu Rabbil Alamin. If you are busy, you are not as busy as the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasallam. If you are righteous, your righteousness is back. When we talk about the taqwa of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasallam. If you are prominent, you are not prominent like Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam. If you have followership, you don't have the kind of followership of Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam. If you have many wives, you don't have as much wives as the Prophet had alayhi salatu wasalam. If you are managing people and resources, you don't have much people and much resources to manage as the Prophet did, alayhi salatu wasalam. He managed the life of the people and he prepared them for the hereafter, alayhi salatu wasalam. He had slaves, servants, children for himself and those that were brought by his wives to his house, alayhi salatu wasalam. Yet he had time to do this kind of a thing with his wife. It meant that he was a person who, despite his schedules, he still paid attention to his family. So he will eat from a bone that has meat in it. He'll give to his wife Āishah, take from it. And then when she's eating it, he collects it again so that he can follow up at, like she said, radiyallahu anha. فَيُدِيرُهُ حَتَّى يَضُعَ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَمِهِ. The Prophet will be turning it, searching for the actual place where Āishah radiyallahu anha had placed her mouth, out of show of love and compassion for his wife Āishah. Many men, we may not even sit down to eat in a single plate with our wives, not to say give her a piece of meat that has some bones. She eats from it, then you take it from her, then you eat it again. Most men don't have time for lives like this. She went on to say, radiyallahu anha, وَيُؤْتِينِي الْإِنَاعَ. Likewise, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yu'tini, he will give me the container of water. فَأَشْرَبُ. I will drink from that container. ثُمَّ يَأْخُذُهُ. Then he will take that container of water from me. فَيَضَعُ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَمِهِ. Then he will drink and he will place his mouth عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَمِهِ. He will place his mouth in the same very place on the container where I had drank water, and he will drink from there. How much love is this, oh brothers and sisters? It is quite unquantifiable how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed compassion and mercy. It's not just about love. People think love is just all of it. Has all of these that we hear about the Prophet. It's not just about love. It is love that has compassion and mercy inside it. It is love, but it has compassion and mercy inside it. He loves her. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah placed the love of her in his heart. But don't forget, that one did not remove the love of Khadija from the mind of the Prophet Muhammad. That is a story for another time. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did that. We are reading from page 175. Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يؤتيني العظم فأتعرقه. The Prophet will give me a bone that has some meat attached to it. فأتعرقه. I will begin to try to remove the small piece of meat from it. ثم يأخذه. Then he will take it back from me. فيديره حتى يضع فمه على موضع فمه. حتى يضع فاه على موضع فمه. So he will be turning it until he places his mouth على موضع فمه, upon the same place where I had tried to eat the meat from. رواه شعبة والناس عن المقدام. Imam Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj had reported this hadith, والناس, and others too, عن المقدام, from Miqdam ibn Shurayh, أخرجه Muslim. Imam Muslim reported that. The 10th thing we will be reading today about the Prophet's show of love for Āishah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We are mentioning all of these. The Prophet said alayhi salatu wasalam, خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهلي. The best of you are those who are most kind to their home, and I am most kind of all of you to their homes. These are practical situations of kindness and goodness to one's wife that we are seeing from the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The 10th thing Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi mentioned also from page 175, he said, أخبرنا Ali ibn Muhammad. This time, Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi is reporting it from his own teachers. Al-Dhahabi reported it from his own teachers. He mentioned 10 of them. Each of them reporting it with his or her own isnad. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi is telling us this report he wants to tell us. I took it directly from my teachers. I am not quoting from Sahih al-Bukhari. Neither am I quoting from Sahih Muslim or Sunan Abi Dawud. I took it with my own isnad. So he wants to tell us his isnad. The first thing about this isnad is that he took it from 10 teachers. Imagine a scholar, for example, you learn in Port Harcourt, you learn in Benue, you learn in Taraba, you learn in Kebbi, you learn in Ilorin, you learn in Lagos, you learn in Ogun, you learn in Abuja, from the scholars of each of those cities. And you took this narration from all of them, differently from all of them. This is the kind of thing that has happened to Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi regarding this report that we want to read now. So we'll be reading the names of his teachers, 10 of them, one by one. We'll quickly go through that, and then we come to the story. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, rahimahullah, أخبرنا علي ibn Muhammad, his first teacher, ومحمد ibn Ali, وعلي ibn Baqa, his teacher number 3, وأهله. Ali ibn Baqa had a wife. Her name was Fatima al-Amidiyya. Fatima al-Amidiyya. So Al-Dhahabi learned from her husband, Ali ibn Baqa. He also learned from the wife, Fatima al-Amidiyya. In the history of Islam, we had women who were so knowledgeable, who had narrations with them, that from whom the men took narrations. Āishah herself is a clear example of that. We had explained the matters connected to that in the previous class. So she was the 4th person from whom Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi heard this report. وأحمد ibn Ibrāhīm Ad-Dabbāgh, that's the 5th reporter. وعبد al-Wazzan, that's the 6th reporter. وعبد الصمد al-Zahid, that was the 7th. ومحمد ibn Hashim al-Abbasi, that's the 8th. ونصر ibn Abi Dawb, that's the 9th person. Was Zainab bint Sulaiman. So the 10th person that Al-Dhahabi mentioned that he heard this report from was Zainab bint Sulaiman, rahimahullah. So Imam Adh-Dhahabi now said, وَعِدَّةٌ. We are reading from page 176 now. He said, وَعِدَّةٌ. And many others. قالوا. All of them reported from one sheikh. And that sheikh was Al-Husayn ibn al-Mubarak. قالوا أخبرنا Al-Husayn ibn al-Mubarak. Al-Husayn ibn al-Mubarak said, أخبرنا عبد الأول ibn Isa, who said, أخبرنا عبد الرحمن ibn Muhammad, who said, أخبرنا Abdullah ibn Ahmad, who now said, أخبرنا Muhammad ibn Yusuf. This Muhammad ibn Yusuf was the student of Al-Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah. Muhammad ibn Yusuf Abu Abdullah al-Firabri. That is Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firabri. Is the student of Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi. He is the one who directly reported Sahih al-Bukhari to us. He reported Sahih al-Bukhari as a book. He heard it in Firabr twice and once in Bukhari. The copy of Al-Imam al-Bukhari's book came to us. He got the copy of where Bukhari wrote his book. It was sent down to this ummah through Muhammad ibn Yusuf. He was the one. The copies ended with him. The last from the students of Bukhari, in whose hands the copy of Al-Imam al-Bukhari's copy, the author's copy, ended with Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firabri. He now said, حدثنا Muhammad ibn Ismail. My Shaykh Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. he gave me this hadith. He said, Haddathana Abu Nu'aym. Let us note this point. Al-Bukhari, Al-Firabri reported this from Al-Imam Al-Bukhari. And Al-Bukhari reported it from his Shaykh Abu Nu'aym. We are coming back to this point, inshallah. He said, Haddathana Abdul Wahid ibn Ayman, Haddathani ibn Abi Mulaika. Ibn Abi Mulaika, Abdullah ibn Ubaydillah. Abdullah ibn Ubaydillah ibn Abdullah ibn Abi Mulaika. He himself was from amongst the students of Āishah. Ibn Abi Mulaika. He was from the students of Āishah. So sometimes he reported directly from Āishah. Sometimes what he did not hear from her, he will report it from those who heard it from her. So sometimes you hadithu an Āishata bil wasita, yani through a middle person, like in this case Al-Qasim. And Al-Qasim here is Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq. You remember Muhammad, the son of Abu Bakr, who was born when they were going for Hajj. Asma bint Umays gave birth to a baby at Dhul Hulayfa. That boy was Muhammad. That Muhammad gave birth to a boy whose name was what? Al-Qasim. That Qasim and that Muhammad, they were both students of Āishah, father and son. It is Al-Qasim in this case who is now reporting from Āishah. What did he hear from Āishah? She said, he said, Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كان إذا خرج أقرأ بين نسائه. Whenever the Prophet went out, we knew what she meant here was upon a journey. كان الرسول إذا خرج أقرأ بين نسائه. When he went on a journey, he would cast a lot amongst his wife. The scholars say that is if everybody is available. If everybody is available for the journey. Otherwise, if a person was sick and unable to go for the journey, she's not available. So you can't say, okay, cast lots, and then they carry her with her illness. I'm just giving us an example. The loss, al-Qur'an, is done amongst people, all of whom are equally available. They have equal opportunity to one thing or two things, and there are 5 or 6. You can employ al-Qur'an to determine who will get those 2 things from amongst the 5 persons. So if he was traveling with 2 of them, and there are 9 of them, he made al-Qur'an if everybody was available. So this is the sunnah. If you have 4 wives, you can make al-Qur'an if everybody is available. If you want to take just 1 person, and 3 are not available, then you take the one who is available. So that is how al-Qur'an has been used by the Prophet Muhammad, and that's our sunnah in the ummah. There is a benefit in this I think I should make. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar said, if you make al-Qur'an to determine who travels with the man, the day of traveling is not counted from the days that will be shared by that woman who has traveled with the man. Is this clear? If Āishah went on a journey after Qur'an, upon their return, her days are still there. The normal days of counting are still there. So if, for example, after they return from the journey, the Prophet was supposed to start the counting back from the house of Āishah, that he had traveled with Āishah, it's not a barrier not to continue that day with Āishah again after they had returned. This is a thing that many women say, oh, look at them. They traveled together. They came back again. He's sleeping in their room. You these women, you these men, you are unjust. I don't fear Allah. Women start making these kinds of trouble. When a man is upon a journey, the days that he counts with the woman who has gone upon the journey, it is not counted as from the days of that woman when they return from that journey. If especially that journey was decided upon a Qur'an. If it was decided upon availability, then there is no blame. The others were not available. The same thing applies. The same thing applies. The woman who has the counting We will return to her counting when we come back home. So Aisha said, radiyallahu anha, I like us to listen to this story. She said, Anna Nabiya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِذَا خَرَجَ أَقْرَأَ بَيْنَ نِسَائِهِ. What he was used to is, when he travels, he will make al-Qur'ah, he will cast a lot with amongst his wives. فطارت القرعة لعائشة وحفصة. فطارت القرعة لعائشة وحفصة. So the lot was favorable to the sides of who? Aisha. And who? Hafsa. Let's now hear what happened during that journey between Aisha and Hafsa. Radiyallahu anhuma. In the riwayah of Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Sa'd, he said, فَكَانَ إِذَا خَرَجَ سَهْمُ غَيْرِهِ فَكَانَ إِذَا خَرَجَ سَهْمُ غَيْرِ. Aisha said, if the lot was in the favor of another person apart from me, عُرِفَ فِيهِ الْكَرَاهِيَّةِ. You notice that the Prophet did not like it. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَكَانَ إِذَا خَرَجَ سَهْمُ غَيْرِهِ عُرِفَ فِيهِ الْكَرَاهِيَّةِ. When the lot favored any other person apart from me, you will see that the Prophet did not like it. Let me quickly pick 2 points of benefits here. It means that it is not every time they casted the lot that it was in the favor of Aisha. During Qissatul Ifk, when they went for Banu Qaynuqa, it was in the favor of who? Aisha. That journey too, it was in the favor of Hafsa. Hafsa was on that journey too when Qissatul Ifk happened. Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned it. Hafsa was also on that journey. But this case, it was Aisha and Hafsa again. But she said, whenever it was in the favor of another person apart from you, عُرِفَ فِيهِ الْكَرَاهِيَّةِ, you will see that the Prophet did not. He will just feel somehow. The scholars say this is normal. Every person who does something, there are people you like to do it with. If you do something with somebody, with another person, with 5 persons, you travel with brother A, brother B, brother C, brother D, brother E. At the end of the journey, if you have a choice, there is 1 or 2 of them you always like to travel with. So this one happens to the Prophet too because he was Bashar. Innama ana basharun mislukum. He was a man like us. So if he has 9 wives and he has traveled with each of them, there is no doubt about that. There will be 1 or 2 of them that he will like to be traveling with. The one that he liked to be traveling with was who? Aisha. That shows his love and his compassion. For who? For Aisha. Radiyallahu anha. So that journey, Aisha said, radiyallahu anha, I was with Hafsa. وَكَانَ إِذَا كَانَ اللَّيْلُ إِذَا كَانَ بِاللَّيْلِ. When it comes to the night on that day, سَارَ مَعَ Aisha يَتَحَدَّثُ. The Prophet will travel in the night when they were traveling on that journey. When it comes to the night, he goes in the ride of Aisha. وَيَتَحَدَّثُ عليه الصلاة والسلام. سَارَ مَعَ عَائِشَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا يَتَحَدَّثُ. He will go and be traveling with Aisha in the ride of Aisha, and they'll be discussing. This is show of Prophet's love for her and her love for him too. Because sometimes if you love a woman and you show love and compassion, she'll be showing you things that make you understand that I don't think this woman likes me. In the case of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, the love was mutual, the compassion was mutual, the mercy was mutual. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the Prophet إذا كان بالليل صار مع عائشة رضي الله عنها يتحدث. So in the night he will go to the ride of Aisha. When they travel, he'll be discussing with Aisha. So one day, فقالت حفصة رضي الله عنها. During the journey, Aisha went to Aisha. Hafsa went to Aisha and said, ألا تركبين الليلة بعيري وأركب بعيرك تنظرين وأنظر ألا تركبين الليلة بعيري. Aisha, will you not ride on my own ride this night? وَأَرْكَبُ بَعِيرَكِ, so that I can ride on your own ride. تَنْظُرِينَ, you'll be seeing new things, the kind of things that I see. وَأَنْظُرْ, then I can see too. Let's see. Can you ride on my ride and I ride on your ride? For Āishah, that's interesting. Radiallahu anha. For Hafsa, she knew what she wanted. Radiallahu anha. Hafsa, radiallahu anha, suggested to Āishah, أَلَا تَرْكَبِينَ اللَّيْلَةَ, this night, wouldn't you like to ride on my ba'ir, on my camel? وَأَرْكَبُ بَعِيرَكِ, so that I can ride on your own. Tanzuri, then you can see, you can have a feel of my ride. وَأَنظُرْ, and I can see too how your ride is. Let's exchange ride and see. It appears so nice. But it's an issue between women. Radiallahu anhuma. So our mother, radiallahu anha, Āishah, she said, Bala. Yes, that's a nice idea for Rakib too. So that night, I rode on the camel of Hafsa, and Hafsa rode on my camel. Which camel would the Prophet come to in the night? The Prophet was coming to Aisha's camel, but on that camel was who? Hafsa, radiyallahu anha. This hadith has been reported by Imām Al-Bukhari. It has also been reported by Imām Muslim. Very, very, very sound hadith. So in the night, when our mother Āishah was riding on the camel of Hafsa, and Hafsa radiyallahu anha was riding on the camel of Āishah, فجاء النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إلى جمل عائشة. As usual, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam went to the camel of Āishah. وعليه حفصة. But at the time that the Prophet went there, that camel had upon it Hafsatu radiyallahu anha. فسلم عليها. The Prophet made the taslim to her. ثم سار حتى نزلوا. Then he continued the journey. It's Hafsa. They continued حتى نزلوا until they reached the place where they were going to rest for the night. And then they rested. وافتقدته عائشة رضي الله عنها. افتقدته. Our mother Āishah missed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فلما نزلوا, when they reached the place they were to rest for that day, جعلت رجليها بين الإذخير. She placed her feet near the Izkhir tree. There's a tree, Izkhir. It's a common tree amongst the Arabs. And that tree, snakes and scorpions usually hide under it. But she was angry with herself. Why? افتقدت الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام. She had missed the Rasul. She had missed the Messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So she was displeased with herself. Radiyallahu anha. She was feeling uncomfortable. So she said, جعلت رجليها بين الإذخر وتقول. She placed her feet in between the Izkhir tree and she was saying, Ya Rab, oh Lord, oh my Lord, Sallit alayya aqraban aw hayyatan baldaguni. Let one scorpion or snake even bite my leg. Meaning to say, what kind of mistake is this that I have committed? Just one night, they were traveling. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will always go to talk to her on her camel. This time, she took the suggestion of Āishah. She took the suggestion of Hafsa, radiyallahu anha. And then, she, just for that night, till they got to the place where they were going to rest for the night, Āishah became very displeased. She felt uncomfortable. She said, radiyallahu anha, wa Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam yanzur. The Prophet will be looking at me. وَلَا أَسْتَطِيعُ أَنْ أَقُولَ لَهُ شَيْئًا. And I will not be able to talk to the Prophet. What kind of life is this? The Prophet is on a journey with me. I'll be looking at him in front and I will not be able to talk to him. Why? The Prophet was riding on the camel of Hafsa. She was uncomfortable. Radiallahu anha. But this, the point of reference in this was the show of compassion, the show of love, the show of interest between Āishah radiallahu anha and who? And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Just a ride in the night. Iftaqadathu Āishah. Āishah missed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So when they got to the place, they were saying, what kind of life is this? What kind of mistake have I committed? I think I need a snake bite or a scorpion bite for that mistake. I'll be looking at the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet will be looking at me. وَلَا أَسْتَطِيعُ أَنْ أَقُولَ لَهُ شَيْئًا. And I will not be able to talk to him. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Because at that time, of course, Hafsa too will do what women do. She will be engaging the Prophet such that the Prophet will not be able to go to where Āishah was, radiallahu anha. I'm sure that was why Āishah will be feeling so uncomfortable about accepting that proposal of come and ride my camel, let me see. I will ride your camel, let you see. So these are the kind of things that you find amongst women. But our own lesson here is the show of love and the show of compassion between Āishah radiallahu anha and who? The Prophet Muhammad. So even for just the period of night where when they traveled the night before they finally rested for the night, she missed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of us men, our wives don't miss us. In fact, the wives don't want you to come to the house. When you come, they are afraid. Hey, trouble has come. Some men are like that. The women don't miss them at all. When they message him, when he messages them that I'll be returning today, they'll be begging Allah that he should miss his flight so that he can return next week. They don't want their men at home. Why? The men are so coarse, wicked-minded, harsh in their approach to the woman. A woman likes to have you, when she sees you, show love and compassion to her. I am always joining between love and compassion and mercy, because that is when it is very interesting. When it is just about love, it could be crazy sometimes. It is about love, about compassion, about mercy. Then when it's just about love, when you offend someone, sometimes you may not find it easy to forgive. But if it has compassion and mercy inside it, that it braces it up and strengthens that love and makes it have a lot of meaning and a sense of direction. So love, mercy, and compassion is what you have between the Prophet ﷺ and Āishah, that they have left for us as lessons for us to also copy. I beg us. Sometimes you do some things like you say, I have not shown good enough mercy. Show it. The essence of preaching, the essence of admonition is that when we make mistakes, we can adjust ourselves. So if you make mistakes today, tomorrow, you still get better next tomorrow. At least you have understood where you need to get to, what you need to do. So all of us, we are all work in progress. I hope that both men and women will make the coexistence amongst themselves to be like that of the Prophet ﷺ and Āishah, full of love and compassion for the two of them. ﷺ. I think this is a convenient place to stop this class today about Rahman.
Salawatullahi alaykum ya Shaykhana.
Ameen, ameen, alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. There's a question here concerning the last class. Sister says, concerning the nurses you mentioned in one of the Āishah classes, I'm not in the Niqabi yet, but I do wear my khimar to my places of work. But when reaches there, I remove it to nursing hijab, then put my khimar back while going back home. Is this a sin according to what you explained?
If you are not in the place where men see you, it's okay. If men do not see you in uniforms that once you bend down, once you turn, the entirety of your form will become exposed. If men don't see you like that, it is a lesser worry. If men don't see you such that once you bend, you know when nurses bend. We go to hospitals. When nurses bend, the listing, the entirety of the forms of the woman become exposed. This is not lawful in Islam. Our religion wants that when a woman bends or a man bends, no part of their aura becomes exposed. They are still covered. That's the job of the jilbab. It covers her up. You don't see anything in her form or shape. That is the job of the jilbab. And that's how she should be when she's not inside her house or when she's in a place where men can easily come there. Any other thing apart from this, you have not covered your aura. Whether in hospital, whether you are a nurse, your doctor is not concerned. Allah did not write a different Quran for doctors and nurses. Whatever you may be, wherever we may be working, be sure that your aura is not exposed. I think that is the main point in the case. May Allah forgive all of us and make things easy for us.
The
question here, Abu Abdurrahman, and a lady who has gray hairs, and a lady who has gray hairs change her hair to other colors other than black. A lady with gray hairs, maybe she has 1, 2, 3 gray hairs. It happens these days. Our women want to behave like the women in the Western world who are dyeing their hairs to be golden color or brown or deep brown or the like of that, or even white, upon the excuse that I have gray hairs. If you have gray hairs, then tint the gray hairs, leave other black hairs black. But if the entirety of your hairs are gray, then the entirety of the hairs is what is deserving of a tint. I hope that this matter is clear. People use that as an excuse. Once they see one strand of gray hair, they'll go and start dyeing their hair because they've heard the fatwa of the scholars like Sheikh Fawzan and others that it is unlawful to dye black hairs. When your hair is black without gray, it's not lawful to dye it. So when they have 1 or 2 strands of gray hair, they go and quickly start dyeing. Alhamdulillah, gray hair has come. But what she wants is she wants our hairs to look like the hairs of kuffar. That is from another angle. We don't know anybody dyeing hairs like this in our times. Yellow, pink, red, and all of these, except kuffar. May Allah protect all of us. So as for khidab, the color is known, and that should be on the gray hairs itself. So if you have all true gray hairs on your head, the Prophet ﷺ has allowed. The area, what he has prohibited is black. He says, وَجَنِّبُ السَّوَادِ, avoid black. That was what he said. If the entirety of your hairs are gray and you want to dye the entirety of the hairs, جَنِّبُ السَّوَادِ, we all should avoid the black. That was what he said, alayhi salatu wasalam. I hope that that clarifies that matter. Sure. I mean,
a similar question, sir.
No, go on.
The place is relaxer.
No.
A similar one to the one you have just made. The place is relaxer and dreadlocks permissible in Islam.
Relaxers will change your hairs. Relaxers will change your negroid hairs. It will destroy the bronze and stretch that hair. It will remove that hair from the original form that Allah has created it. And Allah has prohibited us from permanently changing our forms. It's like bleaching. There's no difference between use of relaxers and bleaching. Bleaching will change your skin to remove it. Just like relaxers will destroy the bonds of your hairs and stretch it. That hair cannot go back to its form again. Once you use relaxers and hairs, you destroy the bonds. That's a chemical reaction. So it is irreversible. You can't get it back. So that shows that it's a permanent change. And Islam has prohibited us from doing such permanent things in the Quran and the Sunnah. Women who change the way Allah has created them, seeking beauty, it's haram. Men too. That's why we can't bleach. So the reason why we can't bleach is the reason why you should not use relaxers. Some people, yes, you can find some fatwa from scholars in parts of the world. And that's why I usually say to people who go to internet to search for fatwas, especially when they want to cause fitna. A fatwa may be suitable for one person, it may not be suitable for you. Not every fatwa is suitable for everybody. Because not everybody's circumstance is like the circumstance of that one person who got that fatwa. So you may go, yes, the white people, the white people in the Western world, in Asia, these relaxers may not do anything to their hairs. Their own hairs are originally long hairs, but ours are not. Our own Negroid hairs are short hairs. So if you stretch it, you straight. So that fatwa may be suitable for them. It may be unsuitable for you because you are a Negroid. So I think that applies on use of relaxers. As for use of dreadlocks, we have not known dreadlocks in this ummah except to the people of Kufa. They are known for it as a part of their religion. Rastafarians worshipped by using dreadlocks. So, and then the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to take care of our hairs. If you make dreadlocks, how do you take care of the hairs? Dreadlocks last so long. So if you make dreadlocks, how do you take care of it? Some women too, sorry to say, but that's the truth. It is laziness to continuously take care of the hairs that make them become making dreadlocks looking like Rastafarians. Please stop these things. May Allah protect all of us. Abdurrahman. There's a question here that says, may Allah brighten your face, Shaykh. Ameen. Did the Prophet marry another wife after Āishah? Yes, he married wives after Āishah. Āishah was the second of 9. He married about 5 or 6 wives, or 7 after Āishah. Radiyallahu anha. From his 11 wives that he married, alayhi salatu wasalam, only Khadija and Sauda came before Āishah. All the others, Āishah was number 3. Number 3 of the wives that the Prophet ever married. All others came after Āishah. There's about 8 of them. All 8 came after Āishah. There's a point of reference and benefit here. Oh woman, that your husband loves you and shows you love and compassion does not mean that he will not marry another wife after you. Sisters, ummahat, your husband loves you and shows you compassion does not mean that he will not marry another wife after you. And if he marries a wife after you, don't say that he has betrayed your love. He still loves you. The Prophet still loved Āishah, despite the fact that after Āishah, he married 7 or 8 women after Āishah. So that he married a wife after you does not mean that he has stopped loving you. I hope that that is clear to our women, Abu Abdurrahman.
Naam ya Shaykhana.
Can we stop here today? The time is already past spent.
Naam ya Shaykhana. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen wa iyaakum. We'll meet in class tomorrow morning, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. آمين وأنتم. فجزاك الله خيرا. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.